Hello, my paranormal peeps, and welcome back to another Deep Woods Paranormal podcast, where we're making the paranormal normal. So, on this podcast, we're going to talk about folklore. We're going to continue to talk about folklore. We're going to talk about 7 on this podcast, and on the next one, we'll talk about 8. So, we're going to talk about the Wendigo. We're going to talk about the Rougarou. We're going to talk about the Melon Heads, the Jersey Devil, the Pukwudgie. So bear with me. Some of these names are really hard to pronounce. They're probably Indian names that I haven't heard of before. So the Night Marchers, the Banshee, and then that's it. We're going to talk about those 7, and then we'll get into 8 more on the next podcast. Okay, guys? So let's start real quick with the Wendigo. And this is the spirit of the frozen north. So where do Wendigos come from? Well, pretty much I've heard they're almost anywhere at this point. But they're commonly found in northern Minnesota, Ontario, and the Great Lakes forest. So I've talked about Wendigo many times. They're a creepy as hell type of monster that basically it's almost like a zombie that essentially has been just released into the forest. Supposedly, if you get bitten or scratched by a Wendigo, you become a Wendigo yourself, and then you are destined to wander forever and continue to want to consume human flesh and stuff like that. And then, unfortunately, your appetite is never really full. You're never really full. You're always hungry, so you're always consuming and looking for more people to eat, essentially. So it says long before European settlers arrive, Iguanian tribes warned of giant creatures that once was human but consumed by hunger and turned into a monster. During the brutal winters, famine sometimes drove people into cannibalism, and legends said that act summoned a Wendigo. Eyewitnesses stated back in the 1600s and continued through fur trap journals. One of the most famous cases was the Swift Runners in 1878. A Cree hunter who murdered and ate his family during a harsh winter, he claimed to have been possessed by the Wendigo spirit. So the Hudson Bay Company, later missionaries who recorded the lore. So basically, these people resorted to cannibalism because they could not find food. And imagine being out in the forest in the freezing cold. Probably in the teen temperatures or colder. There's no animals running around, and so you basically resort to doing something terrible to other people around you and consuming them, and then essentially you become the Wendigo, which is pretty much a demon. You're consumed by a demon, essentially, is what it seems like. The Wendigo stories have been around for a long, long time. I've heard many people talk about them. There's a lot of videos on them out there. Definitely not a creature I would want to run into out in the wild. I do keep my eyes open for weird stuff. I mean, I'm always looking for Bigfoot and anything out there in the forest. But thank God I've never come across a Wendigo, because I would probably shoot first and ask questions later. All right, so let's get into the Rougarou. This is Louisiana's Cajun werewolf. Where does this thing reside? It says the bayous and swamps of southern Louisiana. And then what happened? Cajun families told their children not to break the lint, or the Rougarou would get them. Described as a wolf man with red eyes and a taste for blood, it said to roam the marshes around New Orleans and Houma. Local legends tell of a trapper in the 1800s who shot what he thought was a large wolf. When he returned with help, only a bleeding man lay there in the reeds, who then vanished. Early French settlers whose Loup Garou werewolf tales mixed with the Cajun Catholicism, bayou hunters and later paranormal groups investigating the swamps at night um, found lights and mutilated livestock. So, sounds more like a dog man, the Rougarou. People also said it's a Bigfoot, but I think it's more of a. I think it sounds more like a dog man. Could it be a person turning into werewolves? I don't know. For that kind of transformation to happen inside a body, I mean, look how many years it's taking our bodies to transform to what they are now, and for something to be able to transform like you see in a movie, grow longer fingers and grow a snout and grow all this fur and get bigger ears and turn into a werewolf, that would probably take, if the human evolution went that way, it'd probably take thousands of years, if not longer, for a human to actually turn into like a werewolf-like creature, unless some of us never really came from, never went down the actual human evolution. Maybe we turned more to wolf-like instead of ape-like. You never know. Anyways, it's a lot of theories. But the Rougarou is definitely a scary kind of beast. I do believe it's more like a dog man. And I don't know if maybe it was, in this case, it was a misidentification. Maybe this guy was wearing some kind of outfit. Back then in the day, they basically wore furs and stuff to stay warm. So maybe he was misidentified and shot. And then they realized later on that maybe he wasn't who they thought he was. Anyways, all right, so let's move on to the Melon Heads. This I've never actually heard of. If you've heard of the Melon Heads, let us know down below. Make a comment about this. Do you investigate them? I don't know. The backroad horror of Ohio and Michigan. So these guys are found in Kirkland and Chardon, Ohio, Holland, and Michigan. So, like I said, this is very interesting. I'm going to have to look this up and find out more about them. But it says the stories claim that in the early 1900s, a group of children suffering from I don't know what that is, hypodyscelluris, were examined on by Dr. Crow, a reclusive physician. When the asylum burned down, the surviving kids fled into the woods. Over time, they became feral and vengeful. Now, the Melon Heads. Oh, okay. Drivers on Windsor Road still report seeing small figures darting from the trees and tapping on car windows. Okay. So, Dr. Crow, possibly based on the real local doctor, rural residents who spread the stories of modern urban legend hunters. Okay. Doesn't tell me much. Unfortunately, the article doesn't tell me much about them. But it sounds like it was just a bunch of kids that basically broke loose from some kind of hospital. Sounds like, unfortunately, they are being, having horrible things done to them. And when they left the orphanage or whatever it was, the hospital, they started attacking cars and stuff like that, and basically becoming a little bit more like a wild person, which makes sense. There are said to still be stories of people talking about wild people out there, or they look like humans, and people are saying they're not Bigfoots and stuff like that. I think wild men are probably still out there as well. I don't think that the people they try and say that these are what people are calling Bigfoots, but they're not. I think they're more just wild people that never kind of came into civilization, and it sounds like in this case that's kind of what happened. These kids got away and learned to live in the forest, and essentially are now, if they're still alive, they're probably not still alive, but they're probably still living in the forest if they are, and they're just wild people if at this point. All right, so let's get to the Jersey Devil. Curse of Mother Leeds. Okay. So I'm sure everybody's heard the story of the Jersey Devil. There's many renditions of it, where the mom basically had a demon son. I don't want to get too much into it because we do have audiences of all ages on here. Anyways, when the kid came out, he wasn't human, and essentially he came out with like the legs of a goat and the upper body of a human, but he had wings and the face of something scary. Let's just put it that way. Use your imagination. And essentially, the baby supposedly flew off into the woods, and that became the curse of the Jersey Devil. So let's just read the story here. It says what happened in 1735. Mother Leeds supposedly cursed her 13th child, saying, "Let it be, let this one be the devil." The baby was born normal, but sprouted wings and hooves, then flew up in the chimney and disappeared into the pines. Throughout the 1800s and 1900s, residents reported screeching, livestock attacks, and hoof prints on rooftops. In 1909, a newspaper across the states printed dozens of simultaneous sightings, including one by a police officer who shot at the creature. Okay. So, like I said, there's lots of stories of the Jersey Devil. Is it some kind of monster? Maybe it's some kind of dinosaur. Could be anything. Nobody's actually really got a really good look at it, from what I understand. I'm still thinking it may be some kind of dinosaur that people are mistaking for something else. Other people have said it's a Bigfoot with wings, which I don't know if that's true or not. Could it just be, that this kid was born so deformed that they essentially just named it the Jersey Devil? You really got to use your imagination and kind of come up with your own hypothesis. Unfortunately, we don't live too close to there, but Amanda and I did camp in these woods one time, and we didn't hear anything, unfortunately. Didn't experience anything, but we weren't really looking for anything either. Oh, sorry. Dog under my feet. Sorry, buddy. Okay, so anyways, yeah, in this one, you really have to kind of make up your own mind as to what you think it is or what it could be. You really got to use your imagination. As I've been told many times, if I really knew what was in the forest, I wouldn't go into the forest. So who's to say there isn't some kind of creature roaming out there that isn't human or Bigfoot or something else? Maybe it is some kind of winged creature that hunts people or whatever. So, all right, number 5, the Pukwudgie, trickster of the forest. I may be mispronouncing that, so if I'm mispronouncing it, please don't butcher me down below in the comments. Okay, it says where? New England, especially Massachusetts, Freetown State Forest. All right, so you guys, I've never heard of this one either, the Pukwudgie. If you guys know about this one, I'd love to hear your stories. Are you guys investigating this? Have you ever heard of this? I think I've talked about this one before. So the Wampawuga people, I guess that's where it got its name from, told of a small gray creature with human features who could vanish, shapeshift, or shoot poison darts. Once friendly to humans, they turned malevolent after being disrespected by the culture hero Mashoop. Modern hikers near Bridgewater Triangle describe seeing glowing orbs, feeling pushed near cliffs, or being lured off trails by laughter. So the Wigba tribe, early Puritan settlers who demonized native spirits in the 20th century, and paranormal investigators basically kind of gave this thing its name and basically helped the legend grow. So I think I've read about this. I think we talked about this on another podcast where kids were driving down the road, and along a brick road, they saw, sorry, alarm for work. They saw some kind of a grayish, like almost like it looked almost like a alien, like a gray alien, basically climbing up this wall. and essentially then it basically disappeared. But it did have glowing red eyes, and it scared the heck out of him. So, anyways, have you guys experienced this? Feel free to comment down below. I'd love to hear your stories. Are you actively investigating this? Would love to know more about this thing. All right, so this one I've actually heard a lot about. There's been shows about this, and I've met a couple of people that actually came from Hawaii. This is the Night Marchers, the Hawaiian Ghostly Warriors. And it says the Hawaiian Islands, Oahu, Maui, and the Big Island is where these are found. And local lore says that on certain moonless nights, ancient Hawaiian warriors rise from their graves and march into ghostly possession to sacred sites. Drums echo, torches flare, and Congo shells blow through the valleys. Anyone who looks directly at the Wakupu, the night march, is doomed to die. Witnesses are reporting glowing torches moving in formation across the valleys, like Nemu, I can't pronounce that, Pai, and Kelui Point. Some locals say you can survive if you lie flat and show respect. So this has basically been handed down by Hawaiian elders, and then there's been modern accounts of soldiers stationed in Oahu, and hikers have also seen the march. So I've actually heard about this. One of the people I worked with a long time ago, back in like 2011, 2012, came from Hawaii, and she said that ghosts, it's kind of like Japan. Ghosts are very respected in Hawaii. They protect things in Hawaii. She was telling me about how I needed to make sure I was respectful. If I felt like I was around a ghost, to be very respectful towards them, because they can hurt you, and but they could also bring you, good fortune, and they could be very helpful. And then I've also heard about these too, where they basically hike down through the valleys and into areas of the forest and stuff, and it's pretty cool. I would imagine it'd be really amazing to actually see. One of these days we'll have to go to Hawaii. Excuse to get away to Hawaii, right? And go investigate this. It'd be a lot of fun to go see this, actually experience this with my own eyes, and maybe try and get it on camera. All right, so number 7, the Banshee. This is Ireland's wailing omen of death. So it says they're found in Ireland and parts of Scotland. Excuse me for a second. Okay. For centuries, families claimed to hear a woman wailing outside their home just before a loved one died. This kneeling woman, or bean seed, was believed to attach herself to an old Irish kings like the old O'Neills and O'Briens. Clans. Old Irish clans like the O'Neills and the O'Briens. Descriptions vary. Sometimes a pale, beautiful, with silver hair. Sometimes a ragged cone, washing blood-stained clothes in a river. In the 1800s, Ireland, reports were so common that even newspapers printed banshee warnings. That's interesting. So basically, they're seeing a pale, beautiful woman with silver hair and sometimes a ragged cone, and she's washing bloodstained clothes in a river. That's interesting. So essentially, if you see her, someone in your family is going to probably die. Or if you hear her wailing outside your home, a loved one could possibly be about to die. That's creepy. Yeah, that would be a little freaky if all of a sudden you're asleep and all of a sudden you hear a woman crying and you look out and you see that, and then you turn around and somebody in your family passes away. I've heard of the Banshee, but I've heard about it actually over here, not in Ireland. But yeah, this is interesting. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap this up. It might be a little shorter than normal, but I just want to thank you guys for listening and watching. If you do me a favor, go down there and hit the like button if you enjoyed this, and make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And we will catch you guys on the next one.